Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we'll be talking about a quickly growing potential for a very large, I would say monstrous winter storm across the eastern United States. Now, you probably heard a lot about about this storm on social media. If you're following with that type of stuff, and for good reason. This thing, if it were to occur the ways, the way that the European, Canadian, and GFS are showing it to, this thing would be definitely a historic system, probably one that you get every few decades. So yes, this thing is, I'm not, I'm not holding back in my word choice here. This thing is just a winter cyclone, if there were to be one ever. So yes, let's get started to talk about this beast. There's still obviously a lot of details that are yet to be figured out. This thing will be occurring, if it does occur, not in the next week, or at least this work week. It will be towards the end of this upcoming weekend. So again, a lot of time to prepare. Even if this thing, does end up impacting U.S., there's a track that still has to be figured out of this storm. But yes, this thing has great, great potential. I know a lot of people get excited by this, and that's good. But then a lot of people dread this, and if there was one system to be dreading this whole winter, it'd be this guy. All right, so let's start talking about this. Before I get into this, I do want to say that if you guys are new to this channel, hello and welcome. I talk about the weather. I'm a enthusiast. I love the weather, and this whole channel is kind of built off of that. So if you do, support that type of stuff, consider liking, consider subscribing. Obviously, watch the video first. I'm just saying this at the beginning because I always forget at the end. And if you want to leave a comment, consider doing that as well. I'll do my best to answer your question. And I usually get to a vast majority of the comments. All right. Let's start showing you this winter storm. Again, I kind of made already a pretty good intro of what this thing bring. And first, let me show you the European model, because I think this model has had the most consistent kind of handling of this storm in the past really few days. And let's see what this one shows. So again, right now we're stuck in a pretty calm pattern. There aren't any big beasts. What we do see are a few, or we did have a few clippers that kind of came through the United States, dropped quite a bit of snow across Iowa, really more of Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana. Here in total, from the two clippers, my area is sitting right around at around 6.5 inches, so pretty good amounts from two clippers that were less than a day apart. And what that does is it leaves a lot of cold air. Now this doesn't look like anything special to some, and it doesn't. But there is a few things that are of concern, or there are. Notice we have a large flow of moisture here, and it's pretty open. It's basically open for business. That's how the meteorologists say it. It's definitely able to support any type of storm that kind of has the power to come along. Right now we have a very cold air. I mean that's very cold air mass. Here Tuesday night in my area it's gonna be -8. I'm sure many locations across the eastern and northern United States will be even colder or just as cold. And now notice what we start seeing, and this is where stuff gets very interesting, right? So we see a little disturbance right here, a little low pressure. I mean, it's going to drop a few flurries across the Great Lakes, maybe into southern Canada. But then we start seeing this moisture right up this jet stream. And notice how this ridge right here gets angled to the north. So what that does, it slows down this piece of energy that came all the way from the north. Again, this is this upcoming Friday. So even if this were to occur on Friday, it's still, nothing is still, going on. And we are just at Monday currently. Notice we have a low pressure right there, and we do have a lot of moisture on the backside of this thing. And look how these models start quickly. I mean, within a couple of hours, they explode. A lot of precipitation across the south, the north. You could see plenty of cold air, lots of warm air. And track this low pressure, right? It's 1,006 millibars. By Saturday early in the morning, it is 994. It's already snowing pretty heavily across New York, Boston, Connecticut, Rhode Island. And of course, this is just one track, one possible scenario. But look, this thing bombs out. I mean, it literally goes from 994 to 972 by Saturday early at around I would say 7 to 8 in the morning now. It's extremely heavy snow across much of the eastern seaboard. There's snow potentially stretching back all the way into North Carolina, Virginia, a bit of ice, very heavy rain wherever the rain does occur, mainly Cape Cod, extremely strong winds, and no, this storm is still not done intensifying. 958, that's I think what it peaks at according to this model at Saturday afternoon. This thing is a monster, potentially up to 3 to 4 inches of snow if this scenario were to occur, right, of snow per hour across Cape Cod into portions of Nantucket. Now again, this is just a scenario that some models show. Most models show a storm, and I'll show you the ensembles in just a second, but if you don't know what this means, 958, that's basically a millibar reading of this storm. And if you don't know, anything to compare this to, that basically means, oh my goodness, that is a monster for a winter storm. That is rarely seen. Now, obviously, we're still 100 hours out plus from this system. It's not in La La Land, though. It's not 200 hours out or 150 hours out. And let me tell you, there have been storms that have been predicted at hour 200 that have been, pretty well forecasted by the European. So there's no reason it's very inaccurate with this system. I would say, though, just because of how strong it is, it may be a bit inaccurate with it. But look, 954 millibars of low pressure, extremely heavy snow. The wind is just really potentially historic with this system. Obviously, the coastal flooding would be definitely an issue, and this thing continues and kind of weakens, and it kind of dies off right there, and boom, that's it. And let me show you some of the snowfall amounts from this beast. Obviously, they would be very high. This is assuming a 10-to-1 ratio. You could assume a lot of this will be falling at a higher ratio. So, 20 inches in Boston, if this system were to occur at that given scenario, I would say potentially up to 30 inches in cities like Boston, probably 20 up to in cities like New York, Long Island, Cape Cod, seeing well over 30, maybe even 3 feet plus of snow if this scenario were to occur. I do want to show you that, the models have been relatively consistent with this. Look what the European showed at midnight yesterday. It showed even a stronger system. It showed much of the Cape Cod region, even into portions of Rhode Island, over 2 feet at a 10-to-1 snowfall ratio. Just a very, very strong system. And this is the model that yesterday was available for me. When I was right before I was about to record the video, but then I decided not to, because there just wasn't enough confidence. Look at that. There wasn't really much sign of it because the system went off to the west, or the east, sorry. Now, I also like to look at the Canadian. It's another very good model. Except for some reason, today's model run at noon hasn't come out because you can see right there, Environment Canada is experiencing data flow problems. But look at this system. This is what the Canadian model shows. So this is another very good model like the European that I like to use at forecasting. And look at the snowfall footprint from this monster. It's big, if not even bigger than what the European shows. And this is, again, yesterday at noon. So you could see yesterday there was a pretty big difference. Yesterday at noon, the European didn't show anything, and the Canadian showed a huge monster, which is why, again, I was just kind of backed off on the fact of recording video. But it became pretty clear that most models at this point are supporting a very big systems. You could see at this point with the most latest available Canadian run, it's a bit further inland, this beast. And yeah, of course, the newest one of the Canadian hasn't come out, so we can't really use that as a comparison. I could show you the UK Met. Again, shows a very strong system with the newest model. Let's see, total snowfall, 1 hour 144. You can see right there, it's a bit off further towards the coast, and it's a bit more isolated, but still a massive system nonetheless, just based off that incredible snow footprint at a 10-to-1 ratio, which, again, most likely would be probably closer to 15-to-1, so you can multiply some of these amounts by 1.5, right? So if you have 20 inches, you multiply that by 1.5, you get 30. Now, before we go any further, I want to emphasize that is just one possible scenario with each one of these models I show you. All right, so with the United Kingdom model, you can see right there the European, the Canadian. I didn't show you the Canadian's radar display, so it may be easy to assume, oh, that's how the system will form. We are screwed. No. This thing still has a lot of things to get sorted out, right? Whether or not it will actually be as strong as what the European shows at 950 millibars, or will it be much weaker and still affect the coastal areas with a lot of wind and snow, which would still be a big system, or will it just kind of meander off towards the west or east, which the European showed yesterday, 24 hours ago, and showed no snow for the northeast? There's still a lot of differences, and if this goes even further inland, maybe Boston, New York, that were previously thought to get over 3 feet of snow, could get rain. And then areas like further into inland into Pennsylvania, maybe Allentown, maybe Albany, areas in New Hampshire, Vermont picking up more snow versus the coastal areas. So let me show you the Canadian latest model output data. Again, there's that giant cold blast behind this series of clippers we've had. There's that little northern piece of energy, a little bit of light snow on Friday across the Great Lakes. Then we have that southern piece of energy. These two things couple very well and again produce a monster system. So if this was just one model showing this, I would be a bit skeptical. If it was two, I would be a bit more confident. But it's three. The Canadian, GFS, and European all show a very large system of very similar proportions. Let me go back to yesterday's model run of midnight, right? So this is the GFS now, yet another model. And you may be saying, why are you bombarding us with so many models? Go into the details. I can't. I literally can't go into the details. There's not enough confidence about this. We're just talking about the potential for this system, right? This is what I do on this channel. I'm not, the local news channel that just talk about a system once it's a few days out. I like to go a bit further out. Now, obviously, that means I may be wrong, and my speculation may come at a cost of me being inaccurate and this thing kind of blowing away. But the upside of this thing is that obviously it's fun kind of forecasting systems far away before everybody has their attention on it. And secondly, if I do end up being accurate with this, then I have the chance to make a lot of people, or give the chance of a lot of people to better prepare for such a potential monster storm. So let's see and take a look at the GFS model yesterday at midnight, or today at midnight, at the very start of the day. Look what it showed. Boom, it showed that system, obviously a monster system, monster storm, but it showed a lot of the heaviest snow and the system's activity right off the coast and really more into southern Canada and Maine versus like the largest cities along the eastern seaboard. Still a massive system peaking at around 976 millibars. The winds would be fierce, snow would be heavy, and the snowfall footprint would be impressive nonetheless. You can see right there well over a foot and a half, even 2 feet of snow. Now let's take a look at another scenario from the GFS, which it gave today for us today at 6 o'clock in the morning. Let's see. Boom. I showed that way too late. Let's track this. So again, there's our cold air. There's our northern piece. There's our southern piece. Right? And boom, there's our system. Notice with this model run, there was a lot more snow into North Carolina, Virginia, the Mid-Atlantic, into the Northeast eventually. Rain for cities like Boston, snow for cities like New York. Again, very complex, still a massive storm. And boom. That would result in still, obviously, a very significant snowfall footprint for many cities and many well over 2 feet still in the Northeast. Now, let's take a glance at what the noon model run of the GFS showed us. Very similar, very heavy amounts further towards the north, but even into the portions of Virginia, you can see a widespread 3 to 4 or 5 inches into New York City and Boston and whatnot. Now, let's take a look at the 18Z model run. This model run is the most recent one. It just came out literally a few minutes ago. So as I'm recording this video as of 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, 5:27 Eastern Time, you're going to notice that as I put this forward, we do see that's very cold air behind that little clipper. We see that northern piece, we see that southern piece. They start coupling like every single model shows them to. But look, it's further off the coast, it's a bit weaker, and this makes all the difference for cities like New York City. You don't end up getting any snow with this model run. And cities like Boston, but especially portions of Maine and southern Canada just get blasted. Obviously, the winds extremely strong, millibars at around 968. I mean, it's still a potentially historic system, just for slightly different locations. And then look, you could see amounts right across Maine, Boston. We have amounts well over, ranging from 6 to even 30 plus inches. So this thing either way looks to be more and more supportive, the models, I guess, of a very large winter storm. Let's take a look at a few ensembles. So these are a group of models that we get to look at whenever we have whatever type of weather event, and it's 30 of them. So this is what makes up the GFS family. I just showed you the main GFS model that forecasters use, but there's also 31, if you will, mini ones that forecasters look to in order to forecast storms. Now, the most recent model run that I showed you with the GFS, the little mini ones haven't really processed it, and you can see that they don't show the system yet. That's just some clipper snow. Let's go back to the noon model run, which again, still relevant data. It's just a tad bit older. And let's see what it showed with that system. Look at that. Almost every single model showed a storm of some kind. Now notice, each one is a bit different. Some show a ton of snow for Philadelphia, some really for Boston, some for New York City, some all along the eastern seaboard, some not at all. So again, it's just really at this point, I think I counted 6 that don't show a storm or a major one. And you could see one, though these are hard to count because they do clip portions of Maine, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because that's a weaker storm, still a storm. So around seven-ish models that don't show it, and there's 31, so that's the vast majority that do show a system, as compared to say yesterday at this current time, right? And let's see what the models showed. It was almost split even. I mean, really just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Around half showed yesterday a storm at this current time. And now today, it's a majority. So you can see how there's been progress, right? The trend towards the system. They say a trend is your friend, because if the models overall are trending towards this, that doesn't mean that the chances are lessening. They're growing. Now let's take a look at EPS. Yes, we have a lot more ensembles we can look at. These are from the European family, and there's a bunch of them, precisely 51 or 50. That's a crap ton of models, all right? Pardon my language, but seriously, this is a lot of models, and these are invaluable tools when looking at systems, right, and seeing whether or not there's a growing potential for it or a lessening one, whether or not it's hype from just a few models. And again, this is what gives me a lot of confidence. So look, the control, it shows a system, right? P1, this is a certain ensemble. Not so much. It does show some snow, but nothing extreme. Now, by the way, this is a 5-day interval, so it shows snow from 120 hours to 240. So between the 29th of January and the 3rd of February. I do want to say that within this first interval, some models do start showing some snow already occurring here, and some of it is system snow, like this one. So I do want to emphasize that this may not be the most accurate way to look at these models, but that's all we have. And you can see this, according to this one, this model brings in a storm a bit earlier, so it's divided between these two intervals of showing snow. But still, you can see that one did show a system. How about this one? Definitely shows one. Same with this one. This one, a bit, it does, but it's a bit more into Maine and portions of Vermont and New Hampshire. Again, you can see there's another one that does show a very big system. This one really doesn't. This one does, just a bit off the coast. This one really shows one more into the Midwest, which we'll have to watch for. Again, there's a potential for it. Look at that interesting little guy. And you can see it's still a majority, I would say, show a system of pretty big proportions, big events. But there's still quite a bit of uncertainty. And I would say that probably, though, a vast majority, I guess, two out of 3 models show a large, powerful nor'easter versus some. I mean, you could count this as not really showing a nor'easter, but it is. And you can see it shows a lot of snow here. And while there wouldn't be directly snow for New York City, Connecticut, Rhode Island, you would definitely see the brunt of the winds and, coastal flooding and whatnot. So you could see that these different ones all have different scenarios. And in case you're living across the Midwest and you do see this area of snow once in a while, some of these models show. That's another thing we have to watch for. There might be a Midwest system occurring at the same or very similar time just after this nor'easter. And just to show you that example, what we can do is take a look at these individual models, but with their precip types. So we could actually not only look at their snowfall, but at their at what they think they show. So I just stood on model 46 because that one's the one that showed the nor'easter and a Midwest system. So let's see how it does that. You could see it shows that northern piece of energy right here, that southern piece of energy, and look, they develop a very strong system, lots of snow, boom, that thing skedaddles out of here. But just a few days behind that, we start seeing some nasty storms or snow starting to develop across the Midwest, and again, that would obviously be more of a rainmaker for the Northeast, but definitely another large system. And that's what I meant a few days ago when I recorded that video about this upcoming active pattern. You can see that even if this monster nor'easter were to occur, or not to occur, there's still a lot of storms on in the future that we have to watch for. Potentially, maybe more nor'easters, more Midwest systems, more big, giant storms, if you will. Just the big ones. Let's take a look at this one. Why did I click on this one randomly? I just wanted to show you a random model and show what it shows. So again, there's our nor'easter. You can see this one's not as active with this one. It shows a system. It's pretty strong, but it's more towards the north, secluded from the largest of the largest cities. Still dumps a lot of snow where it does occur. Now, that's definitely a potential. But look, even if that were to disappoint or whatnot, we do have a lot more systems to track. Look at that right there. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, something to watch for. Lots of rain, potentially severe weather. At this time of the year, we definitely start seeing some severe weather towards the south with every big system like that. In the future, we see another system. You can see this one's a bit more active with these storms. And we start the formation potentially of another one right there, maybe across the mid-south. So we'll have to see. But again, I'm kind of going off track here trying to show you the activity of this pattern beyond just this nor'easter. But yes, you could see that a lot of these models just show a monster storm for the northeast. And, I didn't make a video about this yesterday because, again, the confidence was too low. But now I'm pretty confident about this thing occurring. It's just a matter of fact whether or not it will maybe clip the main area and more affect more of Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick areas, or will it maybe affect more of the Mid-Atlantic, right? Philadelphia gets the dump of the snow, and then by the time it reaches more of the northern northeast, kind of weakens. Or will it just, a classic hit the biggest cities, New York, Philadelphia, Boston, all at once, and then kind of move on towards the north? Well, I mean, it's every scenario is really a good possibility with this at this point, but I do think that the possibilities of this thing just not even occurring are very small. So let me just take a look at another model, P18. You can see almost all of them show a very similar system, right? I mean, it's almost like if they're identical, but they're not. I'm clicking at different ensembles. Look at that. Look at that. That is just ridiculous. Millibars, 972. This thing strengthens and it moves on. Wow. I mean, that would be, again, a historic system. But for now, all we can do is just wait and see what we can, expect from this guy. Again, we don't have access to the latest Canadian model data, which is a bit unfortunate. I always like to calculate that one in. But for now, again, that's all we have. I can show you the German one. This is a German model. I do like to look at it. It's a pretty good one. And I was going to show image by image, but as you saw, this one also does support a massive system. Impacts portions of the Outer Banks. The New Jersey keeps it a bit closer off the shore, but more prolonged, and again, obviously would end up producing a lot of snow, but this just stops at Harbor 120. So again, we don't have any high-res models to look at, just these big ones and these ensembles, but I would say the threat is growing for a very, very large system. And if you have any questions about individual cities across the eastern seaboard, I probably won't be able to answer it with much results because, how much snow can I expect? That's just way too early for that. You could ask me more broad questions, which track I favor, and I guess I could just answer that. At this point, I don't know. I mean, really, at this point, it's very hard to say whether or not it's going to be more off the shore or closer to the land. I would argue that there's a pretty good chance because of how the cold air will be shifted based off the warmer air pushing against from the south, that this thing will be hugging the northeast coast. Now, that's already a big deal to solve that, that problem, whether or not it's further away or closer. But then, if it's close enough to produce heavy snow for New York City, or is it kind of way too close and it brings them towards rain? That's literally just a few days out. You can only predict those type of things, right? And we are more than just a few days out. So yes, we'll just have to continue tracking this, continue watching this, and as you saw, the latest GFS model run, as soon as it seemed that okay, maybe they're all focusing in on the fact that it will be more of a coastal storm, right? It kind of takes it a bit further off. Still a massive system for the northeast, just a bit further towards the north, affecting different cities. And again, the pattern is active because we start seeing massive loads of moisture from the Pacific coming in. This means rain for certain locations, snow for others. Again, whether or not it will result into a storm like this or something else, too far out, right? This is way past this nor'easter, which is what we have to get through first. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next episode. See ya.